Hello students, my name is Moon, and this is a special supplementary video and lecture about compensation, decompensation in the context of homeostasis. So it's only a few slides long, and don't worry, that's not a long video, but I think it'll add an extra little bit of side context to the topic you've been hearing about. So homeostasis is the medical term for your body's attempt to stay in balance and an optimal state. In real life, in reality, lots of things are pushing on us, trying to knock off our balance, try to change our center, and our body is constantly doing its thing to try to stay in center, in balance. What am I talking about? Like fluid level in your body. If your fluid level is low, you're dehydrated, what do? You feel thirsty, you go get a drink of water, and then you rehydrate yourself. See, that's how it works. But then if you drink too much and now you're overhydrated, what do? You pee it right out. So between drinking and urinating, your fluid levels are maintained in some level that you would like to be. Temperature, if you're too hot, what do? You sweat. If you're too cold, what do? You shiver, and the muscle contractions generate excess heat while it's converting oxygen and sugar into ATP, and you generate this heat, and now you have plenty. So between shivering and sweating, you maintain your body, you thermoregulate your body at this normal range. Carbon dioxide is what our body uses as a trigger to breathe faster. Not oxygen, carbon dioxide. But that's a piece of trivia, and it's probably beyond the scope of your class, those of you listening at home. So if we have too much carbon dioxide building up in our bodies, it means we're not breathing enough, right? Because our body's making constant levels of CO2 all the time. So if we're not breathing enough, we're accumulating in our bodies. That's the trigger. The body senses it, that triggers the body to breathe faster, so we blow it off. Similarly, if we're breathing too fast, eventually our carbon dioxide levels drop too low. Our body automatically triggers itself to breathe slower, like that. Blood pressure. I mentioned blood pressure over in the physical fitness lecture. And so you're supposed to have a certain level of blood pressure. If it's too low, then your heart will be triggered to beat faster, and we call that tachycardia. And so these are things you do all the time, all day, even though you're all normal, healthy human beings. So as your body does it, it's absolutely a mild condition. Nobody goes to the hospital because they're thirsty. Okay? It's a mild condition. No reason to call 911. Don't panic. As long as you can do these things, as long as you feel okay. So what's going on is a stressor is pushing you off of center, like dehydrating you or making you cold or dropping your blood pressure for some reason. And your body does what it's got to do to get itself back in balance, like push itself back in balance. Okay. For a severe condition, however, is when the things your body is supposed to be doing, it cannot do well enough. So you're dehydrated, but so dehydrated that you're unable to drink fast enough to make up for that water loss. What's an example of that? Being in the desert, being lost in the desert without a sufficient source of water. So you're losing water as you live, and you need to drink, but you can't find any, and so you get more and more dehydrated. When you're so hot that you need to sweat, but you can't sweat. Why? Because you ran out of fluids, body fluids. You are in hyperthermia, but this is malignant hyperthermia. I mentioned that in the physical fitness lecture too. And then what about cold? Well, what if you run out of energy to shiver, the very thing you're supposed to be doing to maintain body heat, but you can't? Then these are all situations where this is an emergency. Hypoxic is the technical term for being low in oxygen, but you cannot breathe. And I said carbon dioxide in the previous slide, but what's happening is you need oxygen to convert sugar into ATP that will then generate carbon dioxide as a waste product. If you're low on oxygen, therefore you're not making enough carbon dioxide, right? So the carbon dioxide drops low, and you're supposed to be breathing faster, yet this person is not. Why? Well, this is not a medical lecture, so for some reason, the person cannot breathe faster, or maybe like their airway is slamming shut because of like an allergic reaction. Can somebody close the door? This is, that's going to show up on the microphone, however. This is the Department of Health, Physical Education, and Dance, so that's what you're hearing across the hallway, a dance class. So anyway, they cannot breathe fast enough to return their oxygen levels high enough so that they can make the carbon dioxide so that they can maintain a normal breathing speed. Okay, low blood pressure, then not enough blood reaches the brain, and the brain no longer gets the fuel it needs, and so it turns altered mental status. AMS means the person becomes confused. Confused in the medical way, not the plain English way. Medical technology keeps advancing regularly, and more organs are able to be replaced. So just last year, there was some story about they're trying to replace a diabetic's pancreas with a pig pancreas, which is going to change the world as we know it. If diabetics can start making their own insulin once again naturally, that's going to turn this society upside down. But so more and more organs are being replaced as technology advances. But at some point, no matter how advanced technology gets, there's one organ that cannot be replaced. Any guesses? The brain. Why? Because if you got your brain replaced, are you still you? Or did we really give that guy's brain another body, your body, right? So even if medicine could transplant a brain, would you want to? Because you're just getting somebody else's brain. So actually, philosophically, the brain is the last organ to be replaceable or at all. So the brain has the highest priority when we're talking about saving a life. We have to keep the brain viable till we get to the hospital, which is actually what CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, is all about, making sure blood supply gets to the brain to keep it alive so we can get him to the hospital. Otherwise, it's not worth it. But anyway, that takes us to the next slide, which is if we don't get him to the hospital, then one by one, the cells in the organs start dying from lack of oxygen. That's called infarction. And this is now beyond severe state. This is now terminal state. This is terminal shock. Organs have now died, and the patient can no longer live with them. But there's still hope that maybe if we get him to the hospital, they can replace the organs, or at least provide machinery that does the different organs' jobs until they find replacements. And this is like sci-fi we're talking about here, but anyway. So we call this shock, where not enough oxygen, because there's not enough blood reaching the body, the different organs. And the focus of treating for shock is to treat the brain, to make sure oxygen reaches the brain, because the brain is the last organ we can transplant, or if we want to transplant at all. So compensated, and you'll hear this in medical treatments, whether you are a provider or a patient or a patient's family. When they say compensated, this or that, it means that through the body's own efforts, enough blood and oxygen is reaching the organs that really matter. How do you know if the person is in compensated shock? How do you know if the body is doing what it has to do and achieving it to maintain blood perfusion to the brain? Because the brain is working. How do you know the brain is working? You ask them the 4 questions. What's your name? Where are you? What day of the week it is? What do you think is going on? Person, place, time, and event. If they can answer each one appropriately, then they are alert and oriented. And also, somebody should take a blood pressure to see if it's high enough. What's high enough? That's beyond the scope of this class. Decompensated shock is when it's not enough. How do you know blood is not reaching the brain? Because they cannot answer, what's your name, where are you, what day of the week it is, or what's going on. And any one of those, if they get it wrong, means they have altered mental status. The brain function is impaired because of lack of blood flow, lack of oxygen. This is absolutely, call 911. If you're a bystander, if your family, if you're already an EMT on scene, you want to call paramedics. This is a life-threatening event. What does this have to do with any of you? Because now that we have this context, I want to talk about drugs. So let's remember the previous picture. We have this person whose stressor knocked them off from center. They are now trying desperately to try to get back center onto the platform, but their efforts are almost inadequate. So when the doctor prescribes a medication for a medical problem, the medical problem is a stressor knocking the body off of balance, then the medication's job is to push back in the opposite direction in an abstract way. So you're the patient, you got prescribed these meds, and now you have them. And then your friend hears your story, or let's do it this way. Your friend tells you about something they're dealing with, and it sounds a lot like your story, and you say, hey, I have the same problem too. I got these pills for it. Would you like one? What's going on is you diagnosed your friend, and there's a possibility that you got the diagnosis wrong. The symptoms sound really similar, but the disease is different, the root cause is different, the solution is different, but you are offering to treat a problem that does not exist. That part about their body is perfectly fine, thank you very much. And here you are offering to give them a push in the opposite direction for which they don't need help. Whatever's causing their symptoms is pushing their body off in another direction, not in the direction that you were pushed off, and you're offering this opportunity to push back in a different direction that they don't need. This is an analogy of what happens when you practice medicine without a license. When you share medications without really understanding what's going on. How do you truly understand what's going on? Go to medical school for 4 years and then residency for another 3 years. And by the way, take 3 or 4 years of college prerequisites to go to medical school. That's how you understand what's really going on, not from watching a couple of YouTube videos. So this is my moral. The bottom of the screen, the bottom of the slideshow is not coming up on the video here. So that's the bottom of that slideshow. And so this is the moral of the story of why you don't share medication. Now, what if you want to have some other kind of medication for which you're not prescribed? Same thing, but in reverse. The medication that's available, that becomes available to you on the black market, on the dark web, your friend has some, and what you've done is diagnosed yourself, and you may not have gotten the correct diagnosis. You think you know what the problem is. You have this pill that claims to fix that problem that you think you have, but you don't really have, and now what you've done is create a stressor pushing you in a direction that you were perfectly balanced in otherwise, and you could actually cause a problem for yourself. That's how would you know that this drug is having its effect but you didn't want it? It's actually in the list of side effects. You go to the name of the drug, you put it into your favorite internet browser, you search for the side effects, and that will give you a big clue of how the drug actually works. It's called the mechanism of action. So if you start seeing those side effects appearing in your own body, well, congratulations, that's what you did to yourself by taking that drug. Remember that as final exams come around, and you know somebody who knows somebody who can get you some ADHD drugs. Because you might have ADHD, but the vast majority of the students here don't. And you think then that, well, if these drugs seem to help that guy focus better, maybe it'll help me focus better. And the thing is, with ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, that they're having trouble focusing for a very specific reason that you're not suffering from. Their stressor, their drug treats that stressor for which you are not suffering from. You take that drug, it's going to push you into the opposite of that direction, resulting in side effects. You're playing a game with yourself. It's kind of like Russian roulette with these drugs. See a doctor. Most of the time, you don't need that drug. What you need is to just sit down and study. Turn off your distractions and study. That's what I wanted to say about this slideshow, so thank you for your patience. I'm going to end this video, and you'll see me in the next lecture.